Hello everybody, it's Mr. Ball here. I want to read you one of my favourite Horrid Henry stories because I know you love hearing my Horrid Henry stories, so I thought we'd do Horrid Henry's Injection. I should probably show you my favourite Horrid Henry book as well. It's a little bit old and a little bit beaten because I've read it so many times. But I love this story, so I thought I'd share it with you. The horrible screams came from behind Nurse Needle's closed door. Horrid Henry looked at his younger brother, Perfect Peter. Perfect Peter looked at Horrid Henry. Then they sat, both looking at their father, who stared straight ahead. Henry and Peter were in Dr. Dettol's waiting room. Moody Margaret was there, so was Sour Susan, Anxious Andrew, Jolly Josh, Weepy William, Tough Toby, Lazy Linda, Clever Claire, Rude Ralph, and just about everyone. Henry knew they were all waiting for the terrible moment when Nurse Needle would call their names. Today was the worst day in the world. Today was Injection Day. Horrid Henry was not afraid of spiders. He was not afraid of spooks. He was not afraid of burglars, bad dreams, squeaky doors, and things that go bump in the night. Only one thing scared him. Just thinking about Henry could barely even say the word. Injections! It made him shiver and quiver and shake and quake. Nurse Needle came into the waiting room. Henry held his breath. "Please don't let it be me. Let it be somebody else," he prayed. "William," said Nurse Needle. Weepy William burst into tears. "Let's have none of that," said Nurse Needle. She took him firmly by the arm and closed the door behind him. "I don't need an injection," said Henry. "I feel fine." "Injections stop you getting ill," said Dad. "Injections fight germs." I don't believe in germs," said Henry. "I do," said Dad. "I do," said Peter. "Well, I don't," said Henry. Dad sighed. "You're having an injection, and that's that." "I don't mind injections," said Perfect Peter. "I know how good they are for me." Horrid Henry pretended he was an alien who'd come from outer space to jab Earthlings. "Ow!" shrieked Peter. "Don't be horrid, Henry," said Dad. "Ah!" came the terrible screams from behind Nurse Needle's door. "Ah! No!" Then Weepy William staggered out, clutching his arm and wailing. "Cry, baby," said Henry. "Just wait, Henry," sobbed William. Nurse Needle came into the waiting room. Henry closed his eyes. "Don't pick me! Don't pick me!" he begged silently. "Don't pick me!" "Susan," said Nurse Needle. Sour Susan crept into Nurse Needle's office. Came the terrible screams. "No!" Then Sour Susan dragged herself out, clutching her arm and snivelling. "What a crybaby," said Henry. "Well, we all know about you, Henry," said Susan sourly. "Oh, yeah?" said Henry. "You don't know anything." Nurse Needle reappeared. Henry hid his face behind his hands. "Oh, I'll be so good if it's not me," he thought. "Please let it be someone else." "Margaret," said Nurse Needle. Henry relaxed. "Hey, Margaret, did you know the needles are so big and sharp it's going to go right through your arm?" said Henry. Moody Margaret ignored him and marched into Nurse Needle's office. Henry could hardly wait for the terrible screams. Boy, would he tease that crybaby Margaret. Silence. Then moody Margaret swaggered into the waiting room proudly, with an enormous plaster on her arm. She smiled at Henry. "Oh, Henry, you won't believe the needle she's using today," said Margaret. "It's as long as my leg." "Shut up, Margaret," said Henry, who was breathing very fast, and he felt faint. "Anything wrong, Henry?" said Margaret sweetly. "No," said Henry as he scowled at her. How dare she not scream and cry? "Oh, good," said Margaret. "I just wanted to warn you, because I've never seen such a big, fat, whopping needle in all my life." Horrid Henry steadied himself. Today would be different. He would be brave, he would be fearless, he would march into Nurse Needle's office, offer his arm, and dare her to do her worst. Yes, today was the day. Brave Henry. He would be called the boy who laughed when the needle went in, the boy who asked for a second injection, the boy who... "Henry!" said Nurse Needle. "No!" shrieked Henry. "Please, please, no!" "Yes," said Nurse Needle. "It's your turn now." Henry forgot he was brave. He forgot he was fearless. Henry forgot everyone was watching him. Henry started screaming and screeching and kicking. "Ow!" yelped Dad. "Ow!" yelped Perfect Peter. "Ow!" yelped Lazy Linda. Then everyone started screaming and screeching. "I don't want an injection!" screeched Horrid Henry. "I don't want an injection!" shrieked anxious Andrew. "I don't want an injection!" shrieked Tough Toby. "Stop it!" said Nurse Needle. "You need an injection, and an injection is what you will get." "Him first!" screamed Henry, pointing at Peter. "You're such a baby, Henry," said Clever Claire. That did it. No one ever called Henry a baby and lived. He kicked Claire as hard as he could. Urgh! Claire screamed, "Ah!" Nurse Needle and Dad each grabbed one of Henry's arms and dragged him, howling, into her office. Peter followed behind, whistling softly. Henry wriggled free and dashed out, but Dad nabbed him before he could get to the door. He brought him back. Nurse Needle's door clanged shut. Henry stood in the corner. He was trapped. Nurse Needle kept her distance. Nurse Needle knew Henry. Last time he'd had an injection, he'd kicked her. Dr. Dettol came in. "What's the trouble, nurse?" he asked. "Him," said Nurse Needle. "He doesn't want his injection." Dr. Dettol kept her distance. Dr. Dettol knew Henry. Last time he'd had an injection, he'd bitten her. "Take a seat, Henry," said Dr. Dettol. Henry collapsed into the chair. There was no escape. "What a fuss over a little thing like an injection," said Dr. Dettol. "Call me if you need me," she added, and left the room. Henry sat on a chair, breathing hard. He tried not to look as Nurse Needle examined her gigantic pile of syringes. But he could not stop himself from peeking. Through his fingers, he watched as she got the injection ready, choosing the longest, sharpest, most wicked needle Henry had ever seen. Then Nurse Needle approached, weapon in hand. "Him first!" shrieked Henry. Perfect Peter sat down, rolled up his sleeve. "I'll go first," said Peter. "I don't mind." "Oh," he said as he was jabbed. "That was perfect," said Nurse Needle. "What a good boy you are." "What a good boy you are," said Dad. Perfect Peter smiled proudly. Nurse Needle rearmed herself. Horrid Henry shrank back in the chair. He looked around wildly. Then Henry noticed a little medicine bottle. In fact, lots of them lined up on the counter. Nurse Needle was filling her syringes from them. Henry looked closer. The label read, "Do not give injections to children if they are ill." Henry coughed. And coughed again. And as she got closer, Henry sneezed. And closer, he wheezed. And rasped. And panted. Nurse Needle lowered her arm. "Are you all right, Henry?" "No," gasped Henry. "I'm ill. My chest hurts. My head hurts. My throat hurts." Nurse Needle felt his sweaty forehead. Henry coughed again, a dreadful throaty cough. "Can't breathe," he choked. "Asthma." "You don't have asthma, Henry," said Dad. "I do too," said Henry, gasping for breath. Nurse Needle frowned. "He is a little warm," she said. "I'm ill," whispered Henry pathetically. "I feel terrible." Nurse Needle put down her syringe. "I think you'd better bring him back when he's feeling better," she said. "All right," said Dad. He'd make sure Henry's mother brought him next time. Henry wheezed and sneezed, moaned, and groaned, all the way home. His parents put him straight to bed. "Oh, Mum," said Henry, trying to sound as weak as possible. Could you bring me some chocolate ice cream to soothe my throat? It really hurts." "Of course," said Mum. "You poor boy." Henry snuggled down in the cool sheets. This was the life. "Oh, Mum," added Henry, coughing, "could you bring up the TV, just in case my head stops hurting, long enough for me to watch?" "Of course," said Mum. Boy, this was great, thought Henry. No injection, no school tomorrow, and supper in bed. There was a knock at the door. It must be Mum with his ice cream, thought Henry. He sat up in bed, then remembered he was ill. He lay back down and closed his eyes. Come in, Mum, said Henry hoarsely. Hello, Henry. Henry opened his eyes. That wasn't Mum. It was Dr. Dettol. Henry closed his eyes and had a terrible coughing fit. What hurts? Said Dr. Dettol. Everything, said Henry. My head, my throat, my chest, my eyes, my ears, my back, my legs. Oh dear, said Dr. Dettol. She took out her stethoscope to have a listen. She listened to his chest. All clear. She stuck a little stick in his mouth and told him to say, all clear. She examined his eyes, his ears, his back, his legs. Everything seemed fine. Well, Doctor, said Mum. Dr. Dettol shook her head and looked worried. He's very ill, said Dr. Dettol. There's only one cure. What? Said Mum. What? Said Dad. An injection. That is the end of today's story. I hope you enjoyed that. I had loads of fun reading it, and hopefully I'll be able to do lots more of them. I'll hopefully see you soon, and I hope you're having lots of fun at home. See you guys.